Welcome back to another exciting episode on Young Farmer. I am Tashlin Lowe, your host, and on today's podcast, we are joined by Vusi Mtshali, the program manager for Wildlife Impact. Vusi plays a vital role in bridging the gap between wildlife conservation and community development, ensuring that environmental sustainability goes hand in hand with improving livelihoods. Wild Impact is making waves through these initiatives focused on climate resilience, food and water security, and sustainable farming, especially in rural communities. Vusi will share his journey, the organization's mission, and how their work is empowering small scale farmers and young people alike. So get ready for an inspiring conversation about the future of agriculture and conservation. So, Vusi, it is such a pleasure having you on the show today, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join us in studio and talk about young farmers. So, please, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the role you play at Wild Impact? What inspired you to be part of this work?
My name is Vusi Mtshali. I come from Soweto, born and bred in Soweto, and I worked for Wild Impact currently as one of the operational managers, could say program managers for a program which is called Youth Employment Services. I'm a humanity person. I'm a person that loves people, basically. So joining Wild Impact, it brought sort of that perspective to be able to assist people and to work with people. I grew from becoming like an all-rounder administrator to a program manager currently. I'm working with the youth, developing youth, and basically encouraging youth, providing that work experience for the youth, pushing the youth to gain experience in a 12 months program for them to become the best that they could currently. I'm assisting in providing the knowledge, training of the youth to gain 12 months experience for Wild Impact.
So there is amazing work that Wild Impact is doing for the communities, especially the younger people in communities. So can you give us a deeper understanding of the organization's impact and the mission that they are driving?
Wild Impact was established in the year 1992. We're about 33 years old currently. We work closely with or we partner with and beyond, which is like our dominant partner. So we work closely in those areas that are close to and beyond wild conservation. We are international organization. We're an independent organization, a non-profit organization. It's basically independent. We currently have what we call theory of change that has about, I could say, four focal areas or focal pillars that we work with. One is conserving the ecosystem that basically works with biodiversity, with marine life, that changes the seascapes, the landscapes of the world. And we've got what we call future foundation, that is basically assisting with developing the community in terms of their education, healthcare, ECD is part of that. And then the third one that we've got is what we call Tomorrow's Leaders. Tomorrow's Leaders is basically a program that guides the youth in terms of attaining or obtaining bursaries like CLEF, one of them, and also educating in schools in a program that we call ECHO, which is environmental education, basically in a nutshell. And then we've got what we call lastly thriving communities. Thriving communities, it's where we have a space or projects that are agriculture related, horticulture related, and then we also have what we call hustle economy, which helps develop the youth in terms of small-scale business developments. So overall, that it's what builds or what makes Wild Impact what it is today.
So, Vusi, can you tell us a little bit more about the agricultural development programs that Wild Impact has in communities, and what does it actually do for people in communities who are interested in agriculture?
Our program is called CRC, which is called CRC standing for Community Resilient, Climate Resilient Communities. What we do is that we establish small gardens in centers, in schools, which is a process that we've just established basically since 2024 to current ongoing, right? So within the thriving communities, we've got a program which is called YES. And underneath the YES program, we've got youth that are assisting in developing gardens in centers, in schools, in home-based cares that can sustain and support ECDs, schools, and the children basically around our rural communities.
So, climate resilience is a term we hear often, especially here on the show at Young Farmers. But what does it actually mean for communities on the ground? Why is it so important, especially in rural areas?
Okay, people are now aware of the changing weather patterns that we currently have, right? Currently, I think we've seen in the previous few months or so, one of the weather patterns that has occurred is lots of rains which have been happening, and such heavy rains are one of the things that basically destroy gardens or food security which is being built or being developed in areas, causing the likes of floods and tornadoes which have been happening, and then as well the rising of seas which come in over floods the gardens that we've got in some areas that we are working in. So basically proactively preparing the communities to be able to be resilient in terms of retaining and maintaining, withstanding and recover from those effects. It makes changes in the areas.
So, access to food and water is a growing challenge that we all are facing. So, how does Wild Impact help communities improve their food and water security?
We encourage the establishments of gardens. We also, through donors, we get support in terms of purchasing HEPA water rollers that we can use to provide water in those areas that have scarcity of water. And then we also provide lessons or trainings in terms of food gardens and how to harvest water and how to create food gardens and have that particular food security as well.
So, Vusi, your Climate Resilient Communities program is doing great work with small scale farmers. So, can you share a little bit of insight into how this initiative goes out and supports these farmers?
It provides food for the children in schools, in centers, and then if there's excess of food, it gets provided or given to the communities, to the surrounding communities members who are in need of food.
Nutrition in school is so beneficial, and I think we don't speak about it enough, where young learners are going to school on an empty stomach, and in order for them to learn they need the nutrition. So it's so admirable that your program is tapping into that, and seeing these young kids. And food gardens are often overlooked, but they play a crucial role in community well-being. So how do they contribute to early childhood development and overall community health?
In rural areas that we're working in, there is problems, or I could say issues of children not having food. And I don't believe anyone can actually go to school or to a center, especially young children, without food. So food gardens that we are creating with Wild Impact, that are being supported by Wild Impact, they provide that nutritious establishment for the kids, and to make sure that kids or the children in the centers and schools have something to eat while they're studying, and they'll be able to develop well, focus well in school as well, when the tummies or bellies are filled.
So, Vusi, we know that climate change is affecting communities worldwide. What specific challenges are the 73 rural communities you work with facing, and how are they adapting to it?
Like I say, I mentioned earlier that some rural communities that we're working with, they don't have access to water. So they're facing that as one. And the weather can change, of course, and then it gets like heated so much that the land dries up, the rivers dry up, and the crops and the animals can basically suffer in terms of that they can die from thirst, and obviously the crops will not survive if there's no water, etc. So it's one of those impacts that could affect the farming area, basically in our rural areas as well. And then in some instances is that there could be heavy rains, which recently there's been like tornadoes which have destroyed infrastructures of schools, of homes, and the communities that we work with got affected by such.
So, how does Wild Impact actually help communities adapt to climate changes?
Obviously, passing on lesson, passing on knowledge in terms of climate changes, um, teaching them in terms of how to be sustainable, to conserve the nature that's around them, basically, and doing our level best to provide the resources that can also assist in terms of providing water in the areas, and planting crops which can basically bloom or grow and be harvested in that particular area. Teaching them about the environment. It's what we're spreading as well through our eco lessons, our environmental education as well.
So, do you have any testimonies from people who have benefited from the Climate Resilient Communities program?
Yes, we've got a high number of food gardens which have been established. I think I could say close to 200 food gardens that have been established within the South African area of the Greater Kruger, Ismangaliso, in combining those two provinces. And we are also growing our or expanding basically the climate resilience to other countries like Mozambique, Botswana, growing there. We've got kids, basically the youth that have completed other qualifications, but they've found interest in the horticulture and the agricultural space, since they've seen the importance in that sector, and how it is important in terms of growing the world, I would say, not even the nation as well. The youth have established themselves in terms of also growing businesses, small-scale businesses from the agricultural space. We've got youth that are starting their own small farms. We've got youth that have been given their own small farms to farm and basically sell so that they have an income. We've got youth that are developing in terms of business marketing, the agricultural space, and trying to bring in income in terms of that.
Wow, I must say, hands up to you guys for creating a growing market, especially with the youth and in farming, because it's something that's sustainable that I would love the youth to just get into. So, speaking a little bit more on your food gardens, what kind of crops do you plant and how many families can you feed?
We've planted, harvested previously the likes of spinach, lettuce, tomatoes. We've had chilies. We've had chilies in our gardens. We've had mealies. We've had, I think I've mentioned cabbages. We've had potatoes as well, depending on the seasons. And in terms of the number of families and kids, I know it's quite a large number because we're talking of over 14,000 or so kilograms, which have been provided to the communities and to the establishments or facilities that we are working with. And the centers, I mean the ECD centers, the schools, the home-based cares, in our surrounding areas, and the primary schools, the high schools.
So, Wild Impact also invests in young people through internships. So, can you tell us a little bit more about these programs and how they can empower the youth?
We are working closely with a company that's called Yes. And Yes works closely with other corporate companies that come in and sponsor the youth nationally. We've worked closely with a number of sponsors on our side. They've basically been part of the program, of the Yes program. Up until now, I think this is our fourth season. We've had over 3,000 youth which have been employed. Currently, we've got over 1,500 youth that are currently active, that are part of the ECHO program, which is environmental education. They are basically teachers. They're the ones that are teaching about the environment, about the conservation of the environment in our communities and areas. And then we've got some who are working in the garden space, horticulture space, that have been successful in developing seedling hubs, etc. That have been successful in establishing gardens in the schools, in the centers that I've mentioned, the facilities that I've mentioned. And we've got some members that are actually in the administration space, in the financial space, in the impact insight space, in the hospitality space, in the travel and tourism space. They are all falling part of the Wild Impact and making a difference in that particular area. So Yes basically provides a 12 months work experience program, and those youth apply for the sector or the industry that they wish to grow in, and they gain knowledge and experience in those particular sectors.
So, sustainable farming is the future, obviously. And what techniques or solutions do you help small scale farmers adapt to with climate change?
There's a term that's called mulching, which is basically it's what's currently assisting in terms of sustaining the growth of the gardens, preserving the growth, preserving the soil, and also making the soil more vital. So it's one of those things that we provide in terms of the farming skill.
So, Vusi, beyond farming, Wild Impact focuses on youth development and entrepreneurship, which is admirable. So, how do your skills development and internship programs create real opportunities for young people?
In the sector of agriculture, basically, we've had youth that have, I could say, established in terms of what they want to do in the future. And that is looking at maybe the area that they are coming from and the communities that are coming from, and what the future looks like. And agriculture has been one of those sectors that is basically growing, and they're realizing the importance of agriculture in that sector. So youth, for example, that have qualification is in the business skills, they've incorporated agriculture into their world, and started maybe marketing agriculture, and let's say, building relations with close by stakeholders or businesses for the farmers to sell their products. And then we've also put youth in what we call content creation space, which is like marketing and media space, and they become content creators. Basically, they take content of the agricultural space and tell stories about agriculture, tell stories about the farms, or normally where the crops that have been harvested, and where they've grown farms, etc. So they use that as a marketing platform as well. So they've grown within that. And then, of course, like I said, we've placed youth in the financial space who are also able to calculate maybe the crops that have been harvested and try and sell the excess crops so that they can develop some funds for the centers and schools. So all of that and more, of course, it has made the youth be able to be hustlers, whereby they've got their own farms, they develop their own farms and create farming, plant crops, and actually start businesses in terms of that. So from those skills that they've gained from agriculture, from the 12 months experience and all the information and the knowledge that they've gained within that, we're hoping as well, I could say that they were hoping that they become hustlers and start their own businesses and start selling crops and start growing crops, start harvesting crops, and being able to sustain their communities. As we know, unemployment rate is very high. So having businesses or side hustle, what we call it, it will make a difference basically in the economy.
So cheers to creating a market of hustlers, and I know with the skills that you have provided for them, it will sustain them through their lives in their farming journey. And speaking of that, everyone loves a good success story. So can you share any inspiring stories from young people who have benefited from wild impact programs?
Just the question.
Okay.
Speaking of. Okay, still rolling. 3, 2, 1.
So speaking of that, everyone loves a good success story. So can you share any inspiring stories from young people who have benefited from wild impacts programs?
Recently, this was just like very recent, we've got a youth that's in the agricultural space assisting farmers in that space, and the youth has been given basically a plot to farm for himself, and whatever crops that he develops from that particular plot is basically gonna help sustain him in that particular space. We've got youth that have taken the skills that have been provided by Wild Impact and started farming, and actually now what we call hustlers in the area. So they go sell the crops that they farm in that particular area. If you go in our regions or communities, you'll find them there selling mealie meals, selling tomatoes, potatoes, dependent on what they've harvested on that particular season.
So Vusi, looking ahead, what are Wild Impact's future plans, and how can young people get involved, whether as volunteers, interns, or beneficiaries?
We've got currently what we call Vision 2030, whereby we want to double the impact that we've got currently in terms of conserving nature, in terms of conserving our areas, our communities. We want to double what we're doing currently. We want to double, obviously, the Wild Impact establishment. It's also grown in the few years. So I would like to think, since we've gone globally and we've changed from Africa to Wild Impact, we're also going to double. We're going to grow in terms of our numbers. So everything that we do, the building of schools needs to double, the building of healthcare needs to double, the hustle economy needs to double. We need to make sure that we've got young entrepreneurs in our country, internationally as well, growing. Cleaning campaigns, whatever, all the programs basically that we've got, we want to double. And I think conserving, it's one of those biggest terms that I know I've said and used so many times, but it means it has a great impact in terms of what we need to do as World Impact and all the changes that we need to do as World Impact.
So, Vusi, can you please mention or send a shout out to some of the companies you have worked with, and please do mention them by name?
Okay, I was scared to do that, but thank you that I'm given the opportunity. One of them, biggest sponsor that we've got currently, it's Nedbank, and of course I cannot leave out Yes, and our partners that we've got also, we've got and Beyond is our partner, collaboration partner, and we've had companies like Ford Motors, which has come into the program. We've got a company called Stuart Co, which has also come into the program. We've got Sanlam that has supported the program, Ilima Co, ERM, which is environmental resource management, which has come in. And then we've got other host partners which we are working with, like the likes of Timbavati Foundation that are coming in, Kruger 2 Canyons that have come into the program and supported us, Sabisens as well, that have also come in to support the program and expand basically the work that we're doing with World Impact, as World Impact. Hopefully I did not miss any.
So a big shout out to these companies who are actually seeing the vision and supporting these young children and individuals through your Wild Impacts program. And I'm just hoping that everyone and companies can see the importance that it does hold for food security in our country and around the world. So for those interested in agriculture, Vusi, how can they reach out to Wild Impact to learn more or get involved? Please do share your social media platforms with us.
Currently, as I said, we've got the program of Yes that it's ongoing. Every year we are allocated numbers that we can employ of youth that we can place in the sectors of gardening or environmental education. So when those opportunities open, we would like the youth to apply and become involved in terms of that. Also, one other involvement is for the organizations, companies in the surrounding as well, to keep on sponsoring the youth, keep on supporting Yes establishment, and being involved through Yes as well, supporting the youth in terms of changing the employment rate. And also I would like them to please look at the website of wildimpact.earth, visit and Beyond as well, and look at the career opportunities that are placed there. We also work with Harambee, so if when posts are available, we post through Harambee, and yeah, those are the website that we use. We on Facebook, just don't know the links, but you can find us on Facebook. You can find Wild Impact on Facebook, and under Facebook we've got our sub programs, the content creators program that I spoke of, the climate resilience program that I spoke of. We've got the eco-environmental education that are also communicated of, and we're also on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram, We've got a page available there from our website as well. I believe you can also be directed to the other links that we've got. So find and beyond, you find World Impact. If you find World Impact, you find and beyond, and you can be linked into our other platforms.
So lastly, Vusi, to wrap things up, what advice would you give to young farmers and anyone looking into entering the agricultural industry?
I think learning, gaining more knowledge in the space is very important. Working with the surrounding community members who've got knowledge of such is very important. And yeah, I would say it's all about learning, and I would ask that young youth that we've got in our country to actually look at that space and realize that there are other opportunities basically in the agriculture and horticultural space. And basically it starts with small things, looking after your environment that you are living in, taking care of the environment, conserving your environment. It grows enormously for community or the neighborhood that you are living in, and it impacts gratefully what you do as a person outside, as a youth outside. And I would say that studying maybe agriculture or horticulture and developing that sector within South Africa as a whole could make a difference. So not only like those corporate jobs are the important jobs, but agriculture as a whole is also important in terms of sustainable food development in the country and finding ways to mitigate the climate resilience in the country.
So we have heard it from the man himself. Agriculture is one of the most important sectors for the sustainability of our country and food security. So we urge more young people to get your hands into it. Go and study agriculture because it is for the better hope of our future. So Vusi, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure having you in studio today. Thank you for the time you took out to talk to us about the agricultural sector and the improvements and betterments you guys are doing for our youth.
Thank you.
And for our young farmers out there who are listening and who are tuned in, thank you so much. That is all from us today at Young Farmer. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you have anyone who'd love to be on the show or share some information about Young Farmer or get into contact with the people who are on our show, our contact details are below. This is all today from our episode. I am your host, Tashlin, and until next time, bye.